Let me introduce you to the members of the ensemble so you know who it is you're listening to. Right? Yes. We're going to start with our pianist, who hails from St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah. St. Louis, Missouri, depending on what your preference is. No, this guy is, I don't think there's anyone on the planet that does what he does. He has a few abilities that I believe to be pretty uncanny. One of which is that he has the ability to acculturate anything from all of the cultures of music. So he can grab something that comes from Japanese traditional music. He can grab something that comes from the rhythms of the saramakan. He can grab something that comes from the rhythmic principles of Indian solfege. He can grab something that comes from the Delta blues. And he can make all of these things fit into the same environment. And it sounds like he's speaking a cohesive language, which is very difficult, right? So what I mean is that musically, this is the equivalent to be able to speak Japanese, Portuguese, French, Swahili, right? To grain, all these things. And Espanol, sure, baby. Okay. But it's the equivalent of being able to speak all of those languages at all times, and no matter who you speak to, they understand what you're saying. So he has a great gift, and I think he is a genius, and I love him to death, so please give it up for Mr. Lawrence Fields. On the acoustic bass, from Hartford, Connecticut, by way of Lares, Puerto Rico. Yeah. This guy is the leading exponent on his instrument for this generation of bass players. There's no one in this culture of music, creative improvised music, amongst the American players and the American masters that commands as much respect as the guy behind me does, in all languages, right? Yeah. So he can play straight ahead music, and he's the best. And he can play the conceptual new style, like stretch music, and he's the best. And then he can go and he can play with Eddie Palmieri and play salsa music, and he's the best, right? So I need you to give a round of applause for a guy that when we are looking back at this time, you will realize that this guy was the glue for the culture. So please give it up for a phenomenal talent, my best friend, I love him, Mr. Lucas. Yeah. We want y'all to hear something stupid. Turn that shit up, man. Turn that up. Turn that up in the back. The engineer, turn it up. Okay, look. All right, so next up is our drummer. He hails from Virginia Beach, VA. VA in the building. And this is the motherfucking bad boy in jazz drums, right? This guy does it all. There's nothing he can't do. He has a band that's called Butcher Brown, which is like the dopest young American band. Can you still hear me? Yeah. Like the dopest young American band. And I met this guy when he was 14 years old, right? When he was a kid. He didn't have the long hair, all the hair was really short. And he comes up to me and he says, Mr. Scott, I love your music. So I'm thinking it's like this motherfucking gangster kid, right? And he's like, comes up, he's like, Mr. Scott, I love your music, I want to be in a band. And he's just like a young man, right? Just trying to develop it. But he grew into a gangster motherfucker, right? And so he comes up to me, he says, listen, I really want to be in a band, I really want to play your music. So I'm like, look, you're too young, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I say that he's too young, right? So I started going on the road when I was 13 years old, right? So this is a long time ago, but I was a kid, so I was on the road at a very young age. And there are very terrible and fucked up things that happen to people on the road. Do you understand this? So like when I first started touring, the most fun that everyone would have would be that they would try and trick me into following them into like really weird, fucked up places. So I would get like phone calls at like 2 o'clock in the morning and be like, Christian, your uncle's been shot. You have to come now, right? So I'm like run downstairs, I'm in like my underwear and like a sock, and I'm just like, what's going on? And this particular story happened in Tokyo. So I follow all of these guys, older musicians, right? And I'm like, okay, we're going to the hospital. Like, yeah, we're going to the hospital. So we get to the door of a brothel. And they push me in and close the door behind me and don't let anyone let me out, right? So obviously not the hospital, right? Within 1 minute of being there, I completely forgot about the fact that my uncle had been shot. Now, mind you, this was a lie, right? But I didn't know it was a lie, right? So I'm still like freaking out, right? So I'm like walking down the hall, and there are these doors on the other side of the hallway. And I'm hearing these noises. Remember, I'm 13, I'm a kid, right? I'm hearing these noises, and it sounds like people are in pain. But it sounds like they really fucking like being in pain, right? So, of course, my natural curiosity says, why don't we check out what's going on behind these doors? So, of course, I like inch up to the doors away. And this door opens up, and I see, I shouldn't tell you everything, but I see some of the wildest shit I've ever seen in my life. Right? It's like 8 Japanese guys and 1 woman, right, which was already fucked up. And they were like, how do you say this here? I don't know, like octopi? You guys know this? With the tentacles, right? And they're like squirting ink. It's crazy. And so my natural instinct, because remember I'm a kid, I hadn't kissed a girl that, you know, I hadn't done any of these things, right? I hadn't kissed a girl, I hadn't really seen anything good yet, right? And so I'm seeing all of this, and so my natural instinct when I see this is to defend the woman, right? So I jump in, and I'm like, in front of her like, no, but there's like all of these guys standing around, if you get what I mean. You can picture it yourself, right? I'm like, no, and then I realize what I'm standing in front of, right? Because you would like to think that this type of shit doesn't come into your mind, but so I grew up boxing, right? My family, my father boxes, my uncles, my granddad boxes. So I think I'm okay, I can handle myself. But when you're in the middle of Tokyo and you're surrounded by 8 Japanese dudes that are like this, you realize that either you're a racist, right? Because for some reason you're scared of these guys, right? And it's probably because you've been watching like karate movies and shit, you know, they're crazy, you think they can beat you up, right? Or you're in really big trouble, right? So the madam, she comes to get me, she brings me back to the hotel. I don't know how she knew where the jazz musicians were, but she did. She brings me back to the hotel, I get to the hotel, and it seems like she's like, I can't understand them, but it feels like she's going, someone left this Negro baby in our establishment. But you can see why a 13-year-old should not be on the road, right? Do you guys understand that, right? Okay, so I gave this guy my phone number. I said, when you get to be 18 years old, you call me up, and you're gonna be in a fucking band, and we're gonna make great music. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, the worst mistake I ever fucking made was giving him my phone number, right? Because this guy prank called me as my grandmother every day for 4 years. And I did not know it was him until he joined the band. So I want you to hear what I heard every fucking day.
Excuse me, Christian. This is your grandmother, Hattie Mae Walker Scott, Atunde Adjuah. I've been calling you for the past 10 years for Mother's Day, baby, but you never return my phone calls and tell me Happy Mother's Day. Please give me a phone call back or I'm gonna come home and whoop your ass. Yeah. You know my number, 504-299-8295. Please call me back or I'm gonna cut your hair off and kick your ass, motherfucker.
So, I heard this every day for 4 years. And so our relationship is more like big brother, little brother, but I think something is wrong with this line. Can you guys hear the music? Yeah. Okay. All right. We just want to know that you can hear it.
Yeah.
All right, so I meet this guy. He's a young kid. He grows into a man and becomes what I think, in my opinion, is one of the baddest young jazz drummers, American drummers, musical drummers, world music drummers on the scene. There's nothing the guy can't do. When he plays with his real heart. He's really trying to impart something to everyone that's in this audience. And whether or not it's your taste or not is an aesthetic preference, but at a minimum, at least acknowledge the fact that this man is giving you everything that he holds when he's playing. So a guy that loves you with his spirit, that is giving you his spirit every night, Mr. Corey Founder on that. Last but never least, on the alto saxophone is, in my opinion, the new king of the saxophone. This is my opinion. I think I know a little bit, right?
Mr. Stubbs!
Yes, baby girl.
I love your music.
I bet you want to play the band. Okay, so new king of the alto saxophone. There was a guy a long time ago that was born in Kansas City. When he started to play the saxophone, everything changed. All the stuff that you hear musically, all the music that has come out of jazz, all of this language, all these things that have grown out of this music come from a guy named Charlie Parker. Woo! Born in Kansas City, Missouri. Say Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri.
All right. Bird is born what year? 1920. Bird is born in 1920. 1980, Kansas City, Missouri. Logan Rich. You know, a lot is made about a lot. But what I'm speaking to right now is something that deals with ancestral recall, something that's coming from a much deeper place, a place that it takes years and years of dedication and love to be able to execute. What this guy has been able to put together on the saxophone in the last recent years is some of the most incredible playing that has ever existed, not just to exist now. So one more time, Logan Richardson.